Patricia's heel scraped my porch step as she leaned in, clipboard raised like a badge. "Remove the ramp by Friday," she said, voice bright as glass. "Or I file for fines. Leanne." "It's for my wife," I said, shifting so my shoulder blocked the doorway. "Medical clearance is on file." Sarah's hand hovered over her belly, knuckles pale. The flag above us cracked in the wind, rope ticking the pole. Sprinklers hissed across the cul-de-sac. Patricia sniffed. "Oak Ridge Estates maintains aesthetics. Your structure is non-conforming." "It's a ramp, not a nightclub," I said. She stepped closer, perfume like lemon solvent. "Compliance isn't optional. Distance isn't either," I said, low. Eli's screen glowed from across the street. He paused on his steps, phone halfway up, eyes pinned between us like a trapped moth. Sarah breathed in sharply. "I don't feel—" Patricia swung the purse, a small, mean arc. The thud against Sarah's ribs was soft, but it reverberated through my bones. Sarah folded, breath knocked loose, knees buckling. "Hey!" I grabbed her, pulling her against me. "What is wrong with you?" Patricia stumbled back 2 theatrical steps and clutched her pearls. "She attacked me," she announced to everyone. "Eli," I called without looking, "keep that camera up." He swallowed. Yeah." His voice wavered, but the phone steadied. The ramp boards creaked under my weight as I turned. "Patricia, you just struck a pregnant woman," I said, phone lifted to record. My hands were steady from habit, not calm. She pasted on a smile. "This is harassment. This is evidence." Sirens began as a distant hum, like a generator spooling up. The air carried hose water chill. My forearms prickled. Patricia angled the clipboard toward the lens. "Non-compliance, unsafe construction, hostile resident," she recited, pen scratching. "Documented." "Document this," I said. "State your name for the record." Her mouth pinched. "I don't answer to bullies." I set my feet. "You answer to the law." Sarah touched my wrist, pulse skittering beneath skin. "I'm okay," she lied, voice paper thin. "EMS is on the way," I murmured. Patricia lowered her voice to a hiss. "People like you think your service makes you special." "It makes me meticulous," I said. "I log everything." Eli stepped off his stoop, sneakers whispering over concrete. He looked at Patricia, then me, then the porch light. "Ma'am, I saw the hit," he said, almost apologizing. She fired him a look sharpened by years of committee meetings. He stopped, weight rocking heel to toe, courage and fear seesawing. Blue strobes turned the street into a slow storm. Neighbors slid outside in slippers and robes. Blinds blinked like eyelids. An officer's radio crackled. "Everyone stay put," he called, stepping out. The paramedics lifted bags, Velcro ripping and snapping like flags in wind. Patricia lifted her chin for the audience. "I was assaulted." I faced my own lens, porch light flaring on the glass. "Oak Ridge Estates," I said evenly. "You're watching the HOA president strike my pregnant wife and try to spin it." Patricia's face blanched. Eli flinched at the word strike, then steadied, bringing his phone higher. The officer approached the bottom step. "Sir, is she injured?" "Yes," I said. "Lower right ribs, possibly bruised, pregnant. She needs evaluation." "Ma'am," he said to Patricia, "don't approach them." She hovered anyway, righteous heat radiating off her like a space heater. "This man is a problem neighbor," she insisted. "I build ramps," I said. "The problem is yours." The EMT placed a palm over Sarah's side. She hissed, eyes wet. Monitor beeps cut the air into clean slices. I kept the camera up. "Neighbors, what would you do if the rules on your street got weaponized against your family? If you want to see accountability done right, subscribe and don't look away." Sirens faded into engine idle. The ramp smelled of cut cedar and summer dust. My jaw ached from restraint. I kissed Sarah's forehead as they lifted her. "I'll be right behind." Then I looked at Patricia, and the part of me that catalogs, measures, and builds clicked into place. Outside authority wasn't just coming. I was going to hand it the blueprint. Let me back up and tell you how this started. When we first pulled into Oak Ridge Estates, the lawns looked cloned, every blade trimmed to regulation length, every mailbox painted the same glossed black. The kind of place where conformity wasn't just encouraged, it was enforced. Sarah had her hand on her belly then, tracing circles over the small rise that meant our first real future. After 12 years of deployments and silence between oceans, I thought we were done with battles. I was wrong. The HOA welcome packet came with a smile and a 30-page rulebook. Patricia Keller's signature sat at the bottom of every page like a watermark of control. She even attached a brochure titled Community Pride Through Consistency. I built our ramp anyway. Cedar planks, sealed edges, no bolts showing. It wasn't just a ramp. It was a promise that Sarah wouldn't have to fight gravity while she healed. 2 days later, the first notice arrived. Unapproved modification. No warning, just a fine stapled to our door. I knocked on Patricia's door that night. Her porch smelled like potpourri and power. "Evening," I said. "Just wanted to clarify the notice." She adjusted her cardigan like armor. "Mr. Rourke, structures visible from the street require pre-approval." "It's a ramp," I said. "Temporary, medical necessity." She smiled thinly. "The rule doesn't distinguish." Behind her, through the open doorway, I saw a framed motto. "Order is the mirror of virtue." The reflection warped across its glass. I swallowed my temper. "I'll file the form, but please next time, talk to us first." "I did," she said. "By notice." And she closed the door. Back home, Sarah tried to laugh it off. "Maybe she's just intense." "Intense is fine," I said. "This is tactical." Over the next week, new citations bloomed. One for flagpole height exceeding HOA limit. Another for unapproved lighting angle. Each one signed in the same looping script. Patricia's handwriting looked like barbed wire dressed up for Sunday service. Eli Thompson started nodding at me more often. Tight, guilty nods from across the cul-de-sac. He was a corporate attorney who'd moved back in with his mother to care for her. Nice guy, quiet. You could tell he hated conflict more than rain at a barbecue. One afternoon, I caught him at the mailbox. "Hey, Eli," I said. "You ever get one of these?" I held up the newest notice. He looked around, then lowered his voice. "She's particular." "That's not an answer." He rubbed his jaw. "You didn't hear this from me, but she's got friends on the board. Her cousin audits the HOA accounts." I whistled low. "So, oversight is in the family." "She calls it stewardship," he said, almost apologetic. "I call it dangerous." Wind shifted. The smell of cut grass turned metallic. Somewhere down the block, a dog barked 3 sharp warnings. "You could file a complaint," Eli added, eyes on the ground. "But she'd find out. She always finds out." I studied him, slumped shoulders, breath caught halfway between duty and fear. "Thanks for the tip," I said. That night, I started documenting everything. Dated photos, voice memos, time stamps. Old habit from the service. Record, verify, archive. The next morning, Patricia walked the street like a general inspecting troops. Her heels clicked in perfect cadence. I watched through the blinds as she paused at each driveway, clipboard in hand, phone ready. When she reached ours, she took pictures of the ramp, then of the flag. She even crouched to check the screws. I stepped outside. "Something wrong?" She flinched but recovered. "Routine documentation," she said. "For who?" "The board." "Then tell the board to knock first." Her smile didn't move her eyes. "You'll learn how we do things here." I met her stare until she looked away. She turned, shoes crunching gravel, and moved to Eli's property line. He stood on his porch, arms folded, gaze locked somewhere over our heads. He looked like a man pretending he didn't live where he lived. That night, another email arrived. Second warning. Potential escalation to compliance hearing. Attached was a blurry photo of the ramp, clearly taken from Eli's side yard. I knocked on his door again. He answered fast, like he'd been expecting it. "She used your property to take that photo," I said. His throat bobbed. "I didn't know." She asked if she could check the angle of the streetlight. "She lied." He leaned against the frame, shame clouding his face. "Jake, she's on a power trip, but she's dangerous with it." I stared past him at the glow of his TV, muted news anchors mouthing warnings. "Then it's time someone turned the lights on." He swallowed. "Be careful." "I always am," I said. "That's why I build things to last." Outside, the flag flapped once, hard enough to sound like a starting gun. The war had already begun. I just hadn't realized how many fronts there were. By the end of that week, Patricia had turned the neighborhood into a surveillance grid. Every porch light felt like a camera, every wave like reconnaissance. I'd spent enough years overseas to know the look of controlled territory, and Oak Ridge Estates was under occupation. The next notice came printed in red ink. Immediate hearing scheduled, ramp violation, property devaluation concern. A summons, essentially. The meeting would take place in the HOA clubhouse Wednesday at 6. I circled the time in my notebook, then underlined it twice. Sarah tried to smile through it. "Maybe it's just procedure," she said, sitting at the kitchen island, tea steaming between her hands. The sound of her breathing still stuttered now and then. I hated it. "Procedure doesn't come with words like devaluation," I said. "That's leverage." "Then what do? "I prepare." Outside, dusk leaked purple over the cul-de-sac. I heard the faint buzz of Patricia's golf cart. She used it to patrol the street like it was a base perimeter. The sound drifted closer, stopped near our mailbox, then faded again. I took a slow breath, phone recording from the window ledge. Every pattern mattered. Wednesday came heavy with humidity. I drove to the clubhouse early, truck tires whispering over the clean asphalt. The place smelled like lemon polish and authority. Patricia waited by the podium, pearls glinting under recessed lights. A half circle of folding chairs faced her like jurors. The board sat behind a long table, 3 faces nodding on cue. Eli stood near the back, arms folded, jaw tight. "Mr. Rourke," Patricia said as I entered, "thank you for attending." "I was invited," I said. She gestured toward an empty chair. "This is an opportunity to explain your non-compliance." "I have documentation," I said, dropping a folder onto the table. Photos, permits, doctor's note, each page evidence. Her fingers skimmed the top sheet but didn't read. "The rulebook states that any external modification requires pre-approval by the board." I pointed at the signature line on the permit. "Signed and dated by maintenance supervisor, 2 weeks before construction." She smiled like I'd just complimented her earrings. "Unfortunately, Mr. Leland was not authorized to approve modifications." My jaw tightened. "He works for the HOA." "Under my direction," she said. Eli's breath caught. I saw it. A quick inhale, like someone realizing the ground was slipping out from under both of us. "So," I said slowly, "you're retroactively revoking authorization to justify the fine." She tapped her clipboard. "The board agrees." I turned to the others. "Do you?" One of them, older man, gray hair combed military straight, shifted uncomfortably. The woman beside him avoided my eyes. None of them spoke. Patricia's smile deepened. "Silence counts as consent." My heart hammered once, hard. "That's not how consent works," I said, standing. The gray-haired man cleared his throat. "Jake, maybe we can resolve this quietly." Patricia's glare sliced him off. "Meeting adjourned," she said. "You'll receive the final notice by mail." Chairs scraped. The fluorescent hum filled the silence. Eli lingered by the door, torn between leaving and loyalty. His fingers tapped his phone case in restless rhythm. "Eli," I said, "you saw the paperwork. You know it's legit." He lowered his voice. "I know. But Patricia's got half the board under her thumb. Her cousin handles their books. Her neighbor audits the contracts. They all owe her something. You could speak up." He looked at his shoes. "And then what? My mom's property taxes go up? She threatens a violation because our shutters need repainting? So you do nothing." He winced. "I can't fight her alone." "You wouldn't be." He lifted his eyes, the conflict clear. Pupils darting like a cornered animal's. Sweat traced the line of his temple. "You don't understand. Last year a guy tried to challenge her about landscaping fees. They foreclosed on his house. She finds weaknesses and presses until you break." "I've seen worse enemies," I said. He half smiled, half grimaced. "You're not overseas anymore." "No," I said, stepping closer. "Now the battlefield just has better lawn care." He exhaled through his nose, a sharp sigh. "You're going to get yourself in trouble." "Trouble's a two-way street," I said, "and I keep receipts." For a moment, I thought he might say something more. Instead, he pocketed his phone, glanced toward Patricia chatting near the podium, and walked out without looking back. The air conditioning buzzed overhead, louder now that the room was empty. I gathered my folder and left one photo behind. The permit, stamped and dated, deliberately, like bait. Outside, Cicadas screamed from the oaks, drowning out the hum of the clubhouse lights. Patricia's golf cart idled near the curb, headlights aimed at my truck like interrogation beams. She didn't get out. She just smiled, two hands on the steering wheel, silhouette framed by glare. I took a photo of her through the windshield, time-stamped. Then I drove home slow, the ramp light glowing at the end of the driveway like a target waiting for the next shot. The morning after the hearing, I woke to the sound of an engine idling outside. Through the blinds, Patricia's golf cart sat by our curb again, hazard lights blinking like a slow heartbeat. She wasn't even pretending to hide anymore. Sarah slept lightly in the next room, an oxygen monitor glowing faint green beside her. The faint whir of its fan filled the house. She needed calm. Instead, Oak Ridge Estates had become a siege. I brewed coffee and stared at the stack of envelopes on the counter. 5 fines, 3 reminders, 1 certified letter stamped final notice. I slid it open with my pocket knife. Inside was a new threat. Failure to comply may result in lien action under Article 8, Section 3. Beneath it, Patricia's signature. I took a photo, time-stamped it, then forwarded the document to my laptop. Years of engineering had left me methodical. No action without data. If Patricia wanted a war of paperwork, I'd fight it on her battlefield. I logged into the HOA's public portal, a clunky site designed in the early 2000s. Password-protected minutes, financial summaries, maintenance approvals, all public by state law. Most residents didn't know how to access them, but I did. I typed slow, deliberate, Oak Ridge admin. The site prompted me for a password. I tried the obvious, Patricia 1, denied, then Oak Ridge HOA, accepted. The dashboard opened like a locked door swinging wide. Rows of archived meeting notes, project bids, and reimbursement logs. I scrolled. The more I read, the colder my coffee grew. There, a reimbursement dated 2 weeks before the first fine against me. Maintenance project, lighting retrofit, 2,150s, approved by P. Keller. The signature block for the maintenance supervisor was blank. Another entry caught my eye. Vendor, Keller Consulting. My jaw tightened. Patricia had billed the HOA under her own company name. That wasn't oversight. That was embezzlement with a clipboard. I leaned back, chair creaking, the house silent except for the steady rhythm of Sarah's monitor in the next room. The realization settled in layers. She wasn't just enforcing the rules, she was funding her empire through them. Footsteps outside snapped me back. Through the window, Eli stood on the sidewalk, holding a bag of mail. He hesitated, saw me watching, then approached the porch. I opened the door before he could knock. "Morning," he offered a small nod. "Got your letter by mistake." He handed me a plain white envelope. "Appreciate it." He didn't leave. His eyes flicked toward the laptop on the table. "You're looking into her, aren't you?" "Looking into public records," I said. "That's not going to end well." "Depends who it ends for." He stepped inside, uninvited but welcome. His shoulders were hunched, voice a whisper. "She's got connections downtown. Code enforcement, the county assessor's office, all favors. She trades during election season, people owe her. Then we make her debt visible." He rubbed his temple. "Jake, you don't understand. She keeps files on everyone, who missed a payment, who built without approval, who had an affair. That's how she wins votes on the board." "Blackmail through bureaucracy," I said. "Exactly." He swallowed hard. "She's already asking about me since the meeting. Said I looked uncomfortable." "Were you?" He met my eyes. "Wouldn't you be?" Fair? The man was trapped between conscience and survival. I'd seen that before. Soldiers ordered to stand down when they should have advanced. I turned the laptop toward him. "Take a look." He leaned closer, eyes scanning the screen. "Wait, Keller Consulting? That's her LLC. I filed her incorporation paperwork 2 years ago." I frowned. "She used HOA funds to pay her own firm. You're sure?" He nodded, grim. "I'm the witness, but if this leaks, I lose my license. She'll bury me." "Not if we do it right." "How?" "Chain of custody, documentation. Let outside authorities see it first." He stared at me, calculating risk against relief. "You're not bluffing." "Never?" He ran both hands through his hair. "You realize she'll come after us. Retaliation notices, inspections." "She already has," I said, showing him the pile of fines. "Difference is, now I've got motive, evidence, and a timeline." Eli exhaled slowly. I'll get you copies of the original filings, quietly. But if this blows back, I'll take the hit, I said. You just make sure it's real. He nodded once, then stepped off the porch. His hand trembled slightly as he unlocked his car, glancing over his shoulder twice. The conflict was tearing him up from the inside. When he drove off, I shut the door, locked it, and returned to the laptop. I created a folder, Operation Oak Ridge. Inside it, I dragged screenshots, dates, and records, every breadcrumb Patricia had left. Outside, the golf cart rolled by again, headlights painting white lines across my blinds. The war was now digital. She didn't know it yet, but her own paper trail would hang her. I whispered to the empty room, "Let's see how you like documentation, Patricia." "Let's see how you like documentation, Patricia," I said, closing the laptop and pacing the kitchen. Sarah's monitor pulsed a green heartbeat. Its hum kept time with my steps. I needed muscle behind the paper. Someone who could turn screenshots into subpoenas and signatures into probable cause. I called Mark Reef Harlan, a teammate who'd become a federal liaison. "Jake, it's late," he said when he picked up. "Can you meet? Off the record." 40 minutes later, Reef walked in, efficient, smelling of motor oil. He nodded at Sarah and set his bag on the table. "We go through it from top to bottom," he said. Eli arrived next, pale, sleeves rolled, a slim envelope in hand. "These are original filings," he said. "Scans, invoices, timestamps." I pulled copies before she locked the archive. Reef unpacked a laptop and plugged in a drive. "Digital traces are breadcrumbs," I said. "You want pattern recognition?" His fingers moved quick and exact, like someone who reads intent in a data feed. We fed files into spreadsheets, cross-referenced ledgers, matched invoice numbers to reimbursements. The room narrowed to clicks. Keller Consulting invoices matched HOA payouts within days. Maintenance bids were padded, payments duplicated under variant names. The accounting read directing funds. Eli's jaw tightened. "I filed some of these," he admitted. "I didn't connect the dots." "You filed her incorporation?" Reef asked. Eli nodded. "I did the paperwork for a neighbor years ago. It seemed harmless." Reef zoomed into a thread. "Urgent repair approved. 3 days later, invoice from Keller. 3 days later, reimbursement. It repeats. That's not maintenance. That's a kickback structure." My contractor brain parsed margins, quantities, waste, markup. The numbers were a red line that wouldn't disappear. Reef closed the laptop. "You want outside authority?" "Yes." "County inspector first, then detectives if it smells criminal," I said. He nodded. "We'll build the chain. Originals, metadata, public records requests. My contact opens an administrative review if we hand it tidy." Eli rubbed his face. "She'll retaliate." "She already has," I said. "But a subpoena changes the optics." Reef outlined evidence handling. "Preserve metadata, notarize originals, avoid compressing files that strip headers. If you want a prosecutor to care," he said, "don't give them an excuse to throw it out." We mapped a timeline on butcher paper, dates, approvals, reimbursements, tacked with sticky notes. The kitchen lamp painted our faces in warm light. Coffee steam rose between us. Every validated entry tightened the case. At 2 a.m, Reef called a county contact and a task force colleague who handled financial crimes. "I can get a quiet look," the county man said, "but you must have clean chain of custody." Eli exhaled. "I'll get certified copies from the server." "Do it quietly," Reef warned. "No leaks." "If she smells blood, she'll shut us out," Eli said. "Then we make the record public," I said. "Handled right, documents beat intimidation." We stamped and annotated documents until the sky paled. Sarah slept, haloed by the monitor's light. Outside, Patricia's cart rolled in its slow rounds. The flag hung still against the pole. Eli reached into his envelope and pushed forward a maintenance request, stamped with approval lines and a handwritten note from Patricia. His hand trembled. "I pulled this before she could lock the archive," he said. Reef inspected the stamp, then looked at me. "This is why chain of custody matters," he said. "We notarize it, timestamp it, and deliver it to the inspector with witnesses." I labeled a binder Operation Oak Ridge and slid in spreadsheets, invoices, and emails. Reef sealed evidence in a waterproof case and closed the latches with a decisive click. "No social noise until the inspector looks," he said. "Let them move professionally." Eli hesitated at the door, hand on the frame. "If this goes wrong—" "It won't," I said. "We'll do it by the book." He stepped into the night. Reef stayed, eyes on the monitor. "We do this clean," he said. "No shortcuts." When they left, I checked the folder again. The enemy wasn't invincible. It was ink and numbers. We had a map, and tomorrow we would give it carefully to the people who could act. The inspector showed up 3 days later, unannounced. A gray sedan rolled to the curb just past sunrise, engine ticking as it cooled. A man stepped out, early 40s, button down, tucked with military neatness, clipboard under one arm. He scanned the address, then the ramp. "Mr. Rourke?" I stepped off the porch, wiping sawdust from my hands. "That's me." "Michael Nunez, County Infrastructure Compliance." His tone was brisk, practiced neutrality. "Got a request for audit on HOA reimbursements and construction permits. You mind if I take a look around? Be my guest." He crouched by the ramp, running a small level along the edge. "Solid work," he said. "Angles within ADA spec. You're a contractor?" "Engineer by trade. Built it for my wife." He nodded. "That'll matter." He flipped the clipboard over and scribbled. "You'll want to know, this audit wasn't initiated internally. Someone triggered it through a whistleblower channel. Names redacted, but the details—" "Eli," I said before he could finish. He lifted his brows. "You've got good instincts. Just history." Before he could continue, the sharp whine of Patricia's golf cart broke the quiet. She pulled up beside the curb, pearls flashing, smile practiced for campaign photos. "Mr. Nunez," she sang out, "I wasn't aware of a scheduled inspection. You should have gone through me first." "That's not how external audits work," he said. Her expression flickered, surprise, then irritation. "Surely, if this concerns HOA matters, the board should be present." "I'm not here about the board's internal policies," he said evenly. "I'm here about financial reimbursements filed through the county's shared maintenance fund. Keller Consulting is listed as vendor of record. That your firm?" Her smile cracked. "That's a clerical overlap. My husband manages a separate business. Public registry lists your signature as primary." Patricia blinked twice, calculating. "There must be confusion." "There usually is," Nunez said, turning his back to her and photographing the ramp. Her tone hardened. "This is harassment. Mr. Rourke has a history of aggression." Nunez didn't look up. "That'll be in the report, too." I hid a smile. Patricia's gaze cut to me like broken glass. "Enjoy your little show," she whispered. "But remember, neighbors vote. Good thing the county doesn't." She revved the cart and tore off, tires crunching gravel. Nunez watched her go, lips pursed. "That one's going to make my day interesting." "She's been practicing." He walked back to his car. "You'll get an acknowledgement letter within 48 hours. Once it's logged, retaliation counts as obstruction." "Retaliation's her love language." He smirked. "Document everything." Then he was gone. Inside, Sarah sat at the table with her tea. "Who was that?" "Inspector," I said. "It's starting." "Starting or exploding?" "Both." She smiled faintly. "You're doing what you're good at, building something. Just make sure it's worth what it costs." That night, Eli knocked. He looked like he hadn't slept in days, eyes red, shirt wrinkled. He stepped inside without waiting. "She knows," he said. "Patricia called me into her office this afternoon. Said she heard I'd been sharing internal documents." My stomach tightened. "What did you say?" "I told her I was cleaning up the digital archive." He rubbed his hands. She smiled and said she appreciated diligence. "She threatened you?" He shook his head. "Worse, she thanked me. Said transparency was important. She's going to frame this as her idea. A self-initiated audit. She'll burn the evidence if she gets the chance." I grabbed my phone. "Reef's got backups. She'll go after him too if she finds his name. She doesn't know it." Eli slumped into a chair, breathing fast. "Jake, I'm not built for this. I fix contracts, not fight dictators." I poured him water. "You already chose sides when you sent me those files." He looked at his trembling hands. "Then I need to finish it, don't I?" "You need to survive it." He gave a hollow laugh. "That'd be nice." Lightning flashed beyond the window, white veins crawling across the sky. The flag outside snapped hard once, then settled. Storm coming, literal and otherwise. When the rain hit, it came sideways. I moved to close the door, but a flash of headlights caught my eye. Patricia's cart again, idling across the street. She sat there, wipers flapping, watching our house through the rain. Eli followed my gaze. She's not even pretending anymore. She doesn't need to, I said. She's scared. Then why do I feel like we should be? I watched the taillights fade, red bleeding into the wet asphalt. Because scared people make the most noise right before they fall. The storm deepened, thunder rolling across the hills. Somewhere in the distance, I imagined the sound of a paper shredder chewing through panic. Tomorrow, the audit would become official, and Patricia Keller, self-crowned queen of Oak Ridge Estates, was about to discover that her own paperwork could fight back harder than I ever could. By morning, the rain had rinsed Oak Ridge Estates clean, but it felt like a lie. The lawns glistened, sidewalks perfect, every mailbox standing at HOA-approved angles. But under the polish, something was rotting. I was on the porch tightening the ramp bolts when Eli crossed the street, hair still damp from the storm. He looked lighter somehow, pale but resolved. In one hand, a flash drive. She overplayed it, he said. I straightened. Patricia? She called an emergency board session last night, tried to spin the audit as her idea, claimed she requested it to prove transparency. But she slipped. How? He held up the flash drive. She left her admin account logged in during the meeting. I copied everything. The breath left me in one long exhale. You sure it's clean? Metadata intact, he said. It's got invoice chains, approval edits, private messages between her and the auditor she bribed. I took it gently. That's the smoking gun? Eli gave a hollow laugh. Feels more like a ticking bomb. We sat at the table, laptop between us. I plugged in the drive. Folders bloomed like evidence trees. Emails, board chats, even PDFs of contracts marked confidential. One message caught my eye. Subject line, expense justification, ramp violation. I opened it. If we escalate fines, we can offset Keller Consulting's surplus for Q3. Rourke's case sets precedent for stricter enforcement, helps balance optics. Eli swore under his breath. She used your family as a revenue model. I leaned back, jaw tight. She turned harassment into profit margins. Another thread revealed she'd funneled HOA maintenance budgets into personal reimbursements for consulting. Dozens of approvals, all signed by her cousin on the board. The whole thing was a racket dressed in bylaws. She's finished, I said. Not yet, Eli said. She'll blame me when she realizes what's missing. I was the last person near her office. Then we get ahead of it. I reach for my phone. Reef can verify chain of custody, timestamp the copy. Once the inspector sees this, they'll escalate to a criminal referral. Eli's knee bounced under the table. You trust them to act fast? I trust procedure, I said, and I trust leverage. He smiled faintly. You sound like her? Difference is, I'm not lying. We spent the next hour cataloging files. Reef arrived halfway through, coffee in one hand, evidence tags in the other. He scanned the folder tree, whistled low. This is gold, federal fraud statute gold. Eli rubbed his palms on his jeans. Just make sure it's handled right. It will. Reef said. We'll secure it under my chain. County won't touch it until legal confirms. I saved duplicate copies to an encrypted drive, stored it in the safe beneath the tool bench, a habit from field work, when losing a drive could mean losing lives. That afternoon, Patricia's retaliation hit. 3 notices taped to our door, one for unauthorized filming, another for hostile conduct, and a third, the boldest, notice of intent to lien. Sarah read them silently, lips pressed together. She's panicking. She's cornered, I said. What happens now? Now, I said. We let her write her own indictment. Eli stayed late, watching the window like a man expecting headlights. She'll come for me next, he said quietly. Let her, I said. Every word she says will tighten the rope. As the sun dipped, a new sound joined the cicadas, the low thrum of a county cruiser. Nunez stepped out again, same calm precision. Mr. Rourke, he said, lifting a sealed folder. Interim reports in. We're forwarding to the DA's office. Preliminary findings suggest misuse of HOA funds and obstruction. Eli froze. Obstruction? Attempted interference with an ongoing audit. Someone tried to access county records last night from a local IP. I smiled grimly. Patricia. Nunez nodded. We traced it. She used her HOA admin credentials. Eli let out a shaky breath, half relief, half disbelief. So it's official? It's moving that way, Nunez said. But it'll get loud. She'll spin it as persecution. Be ready for noise. I looked at Eli. We can handle noise. He managed a small grin. Guess I'm part of this now. You always were, I said. When the inspector left, Eli stood on the porch, hands deep in his pockets. You think this ends with her arrest? No, I said, watching the flag stir in the dusk. It ends when this community remembers who it belongs to. The street lamps buzzed on, amber halos against the deepening dark. Eli lingered another minute, then nodded once, resolute. Whatever happens next, he said, I'll testify. Lightning flickered far off again, the same direction the storm had rolled days ago. Only this time, it didn't feel like warning. It felt like promise. Patricia didn't wait for the weekend. By Friday morning, every mailbox in Oak Ridge Estates had a glossy community update folded neatly inside, her propaganda in full color. The headline read, Protecting Oak Ridge from False Accusations. I flipped through it on the porch, the smell of ink still sharp. My name appeared 4 times in the first paragraph. Disgruntled resident, unstable veteran, non-compliant with HOA safety codes. She'd even added that I threatened a board member, a neat lie printed in 12-point Times New Roman. Sarah read over my shoulder. She's slandering you. She's campaigning, I said. She knows what's coming. But it hit harder when I stepped outside. Neighbors who'd once waved now averted their eyes. Some picked up their papers and folded them quick, as if they were hiding contraband. Patricia's poison had worked fast. Eli showed up 10 minutes later, holding the same newsletter. His hands trembled. She's naming me, too. Says I violated confidentiality agreements. She's desperate, I said. She's effective, he countered. My mother's already gotten 3 calls asking if I'm being investigated. Reef arrived not long after, pulling up in a plain SUV. I've seen smear jobs, he said, stepping onto the porch. But this one's designed to isolate you, classic pressure play. Then we go public first, I said. He shook his head. Not yet. Let the process speak. The DA's office received the packet yesterday. They're reviewing. Meanwhile, she's rewriting history in real time. That's what guilty people do, Reef said. They talk loud before the fall. Eli slumped against the railing, the flag's shadow crossing his face. You think people will believe her? Some will, I said, but truth has timestamps. Lies don't. He stared out at the street. She's holding a community meeting tomorrow. Claims it's to address misinformation. Let her talk, I said. We'll have the facts. That night, I worked in the garage while Sarah slept. I printed everything. The invoices, Keller Consulting contracts, email chains, sealed and labeled envelopes. Reef uploaded mirrored copies to cloud storage under his federal account. If Patricia torched the digital trail, we'd still have the ashes. At midnight, Eli called. She's already moving, he whispered. Just saw her leaving the clubhouse with boxes. Looks like files. She's purging. I thought the audit froze her access. Apparently, not fast enough. I grabbed my jacket and keys. Stay put, I said. The clubhouse lights were still on when I got there, fluorescent and cold. Through the window I saw Patricia bent over a printer, papers stacked like ammunition. Another board member stood beside her, whispering, pointing toward the door. When I stepped inside, the room went still. Evening, I said. Patricia straightened. This facility is closed. Doesn't look closed. She shoved a folder into a box. You're trespassing. I'm a resident. Her voice trembled with controlled rage. You've caused enough damage. Not yet. For a heartbeat, we stood in the hum of the printer. Her with the weapon of bureaucracy, me with the weight of evidence. You think you're some kind of hero, she said. But this community runs on order. Without me, it falls apart. Order doesn't mean obedience, I said. It means fairness. She slammed the box lid shut. You'll regret this. I already do, I said. Reef's headlights flooded the windows as he pulled up. Patricia flinched. He stepped inside, badge flashing just enough to matter. Evening, ma'am, he said. County Audit Extension. We'll take those boxes. Her jaw dropped. You can't. Chain of custody, he said, calm but unmovable. You interfere. It's obstruction. Her hand hovered over the box, then dropped. Eli appeared behind him, hesitant but steady. Everything you've done, he said to her, it's over. She laughed, brittle and high. You think anyone cares? People forget. They always do. Reef sealed the box. Not this time. When we stepped outside, the air was thick with ozone and the distant hiss of sprinklers. Eli leaned against the railing, shaking. She looked terrified, he said. She should be, I answered. He turned toward me, expression clearing into something like peace. You were right. Doing nothing was worse. I clapped him on the shoulder. Welcome to the right side of the paperwork. Back home, I placed the printed smear flyer beside the sealed evidence folder. One was fiction, the other was fact. Tomorrow, the community would have to choose which story to believe. I looked out at the flag, rippling in the early breeze. It didn't just symbolize freedom anymore. It symbolized exposure. The kind that burns lies clean. Saturday felt like the breath before detonation. The HOA meeting wasn't scheduled in the usual clubhouse, but on the green itself. Patricia's idea to invite transparency. A stage of folding tables, microphones, and a portable speaker system waited under the flagpole. Sunlight glared off the polished lectern where she'd stand. Sarah stayed home, doctor's orders. Reef and I parked 2 streets over and walked in. Eli trailed behind, clutching a folder like it might steady him. The neighborhood gathered in small, tight clusters. You could smell cut grass and anxiety. Patricia was already there, dressed in white like a peacekeeper. Her pearls caught the light, her smile rehearsed. When she saw me, her expression flickered, a mix of rage and performance. Mr. Rourke, she called, voice amplified through the cheap mic. I'm glad you came. Today we restore harmony to Oak Ridge Estates. I kept my hands in my pockets. That's one way to call it. Reef stood at my shoulder, calm as ever, phone in hand, recording everything. The county inspector, Nunez, wasn't visible yet, but he'd confirmed he'd attend as an observer. Patricia launched into her speech. Certain individuals have attempted to undermine the community through false accusations and doctored documents. I assure you, the board remains committed to integrity. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Neighbors I'd built fences for glanced at me, uncertain. Patricia fed on that uncertainty. Mr. Rourke's allegations, she continued, are malicious. I've already submitted evidence of his noncompliance and aggression to the county. Funny, Reef muttered, since the county filed charges yesterday. Patricia's mic popped with static as she adjusted it. And to prove our transparency, she said, holding up a sealed folder. I've brought the original financial statements for review. Eli stiffened. I recognized the folder. She'd stolen it from the clubhouse before Reef's team collected the rest. Those aren't originals, Eli said loudly, heads turned. You replaced them. Patricia's face froze mid-smile. Excuse me? The metadata doesn't match, Eli said. His voice trembled but carried. I handled the digital archive. You reprinted the ledgers after deleting entries. Mr. Thompson, she said sharply, that's a serious accusation. So's fraud, he said. Gasps threaded the air. Someone in the back started recording on their phone. I stepped forward. You want transparency, Patricia? Let's have it. I nodded to Reef. He tapped his screen, sending a signal. From a nearby SUV, a portable speaker crackled to life. Nunez's voice came through, projected for everyone to hear. Effective yesterday, Keller Consulting and the Oak Ridge Estates Homeowners Association are under investigation for financial mismanagement, pending a criminal review by the district attorney's office. Silence crashed over the crowd. Patricia blinked rapidly. That's impossible. Nunez himself emerged from the crowd, badge clipped to his belt. Not impossible, he said. Official. Her voice wavered. You can't make that public. I just did, he said. Eli let out a long breath. The weight he'd carried since that first meeting seemed to lift. Patricia's facade crumbled. You don't understand, she whispered, microphone still on. Everything I did was for order. You let chaos in, and this neighborhood will rot. It already did, I said quietly. You just painted over the smell. The crowd began to shift. Neighbors who once hid behind curtains now stepping closer, murmuring. Phones out, cameras up. Patricia stumbled backward, pearls catching the sunlight one last time before she dropped the mic. Nunez gestured to two uniformed officers waiting by the street. They approached calmly. She didn't resist, just stared at me like she was still in control. This isn't over, she said. No, I answered. It's finally starting. The officers led her to the car, the sound of radio chatter filling the gap her voice left. When the door shut, the noise of the crowd swelled, half disbelief, half relief. Reef clapped my shoulder. You just watched authority work the way it's supposed to. Feels unreal, I said. It always does when justice catches up. Eli looked dazed but smiling. She's really gone. For now, I said, and long enough. As the sun dipped behind the houses, the flag over the green hung motionless. The breeze had stopped, as if even the air was waiting to exhale. Tomorrow, Oak Ridge would start rebuilding, but tonight, for the first time, silence sounded like peace. By Sunday morning, the neighborhood looked like a scene after a storm, quiet but rearranged. Cars crept past the green where Patricia had been led away less than 24 hours earlier. The banner for Community Day still hung between two oaks, half torn, fluttering in the breeze like the last piece of her authority. I brewed coffee and watched from the porch. For the first time in months, no golf carts circled the block, no camera flashes behind blinds, just stillness. Sarah joined me, robe drawn tight around her. The swelling along her ribs had faded to yellow and purple. She leaned against my shoulder. You did it, she said softly. We did it, I corrected. You, Eli, Reef, Nunez, everyone who stopped looking away. The flag above us flapped once, crisp in the morning light. It didn't look like a symbol of defiance anymore, just something honest. By mid-morning, phones started buzzing. A local reporter had posted a short piece online. HOA, President arrested in fraud and assault probe. The photo was unmistakable. Patricia, pearls slightly askew, being guided into a cruiser. Sarah scrolled, her expression unreadable. They used your name, she said. Let them, I said. The truth public now. The article spread fast. Neighbors began stopping by, first one, then another. Apologies carried in casseroles, coffee cakes, handshakes. Each one sounded the same. We didn't know. We thought she was helping. I believed some of them. Fear can look a lot like obedience when you live under constant surveillance. Eli arrived just after noon. He'd shaved, wore a clean shirt, eyes clear for the first time in weeks. County DA's office called, he said. They want statements tomorrow, official depositions. Good, I said. You ready? I think so. He smiled faintly. I told my mom. She said she's proud of me. First time she's said that in years. Sarah squeezed his arm. You deserve it. He looked at me. And you? I nodded toward the ramp. Just fixing what's mine. He followed my gaze, exhaling. Funny how one ramp started a revolution. We spent the afternoon repairing what Patricia had broken. The ramp's paint was chipped from months of inspections. I sanded it smooth while Eli replaced a loose plank. Reef stopped by, off-duty, carrying iced coffees. Official update, he said, handing me one. County confirmed charges, fraud, obstruction, and assault. Fast turnaround. She made it easy, he said. Left her signature on everything. Justice by overconfidence, I said. Reef chuckled. Exactly. She'll try to plea out, but her influence is gone. He leaned on the porch rail, eyes scanning the quiet cul-de-sac. You going to stay here? Yeah, I said. We built this place for peace. Feels wrong to run now that it's possible? Sarah nodded beside me. We'll rebuild it the right way. Eli smiled. You realize they'll need a new board, I laughed. Don't even start. Think about it, he said. People trust you now. You know the system. You could turn it transparent. Reef smirked. You'd be the first HOA president with a moral compass. I shook my head. I'm not built for politics. Neither was she, Eli said. That's the point. Evening light melted over the houses, soft and gold. Kids rode bikes down the street again. No one yelling citations about sidewalk chalk or driveway lines. The neighborhood was breathing. When the sun dropped, I climbed the small hill behind the green. The flagpole still stood, rope frayed but holding. I raised the flag slowly until it caught the wind. Below, porch lights flicked on one by one, like a town remembering itself. Eli stood beside me, watching. "You think it'll last?" "Order never lasts," I said. "But integrity might." He smiled. "That's a better foundation anyway." Behind us, Sarah called from the porch. "Dinner's ready." I turned, voice steady again. "Coming." As we walked back down, I caught sight of the ramp in the porch light, solid, clean, unafraid. For the first time, it didn't look like rebellion. It looked like belonging. Patricia's voice might echo through paperwork and gossip for a while, but the system she built had collapsed under its own weight. The neighborhood wasn't perfect, never would be, but it was honest now, and that, for a man who spent years fighting in silence, felt like victory. The new HOA meeting took place a week later, in the same clubhouse where Patricia once ruled from behind her clipboard. The walls still smelled faintly of lemon polish and tension, but now, instead of her nameplate, a plain paper sign read, "Temporary Board Assembly." Sarah came with me this time, moving slowly but stronger each day. Eli sat near the front, flipping nervously through a stack of notes. Reef leaned against the wall, arms folded, off-duty but watching like a sentry. The turnout was huge. Even the residents who never attended before filled the folding chairs. The air buzzed with something halfway between nerves and anticipation. An older neighbor, Mrs. Parker, stood at the podium. "As acting moderator," she said, "our first order of business is addressing open positions on the board. Patricia Keller's resignation has been formally recorded pending trial. We will hold nominations for interim members." Her voice trembled slightly but steadied as she continued. "Before that, Mr. Rourke has been asked to speak regarding the recent events." Dozens of eyes turned toward me. I hadn't planned a speech. I stood anyway. "Most of you know what happened," I said. "You've seen the headlines, heard the rumors. But this isn't about revenge or blame. It's about rebuilding trust." Murmurs rippled through the crowd, agreement mixed with unease. "I built that ramp for my wife," I continued. "It was supposed to make our life easier. Instead, it exposed how fragile this community had become. Rules are supposed to protect people, not punish them." A man in the back raised his hand. "You're saying we throw out the rule book?" "No," I said. "I'm saying we read it for the first time, and we make sure it serves us, not controls us." Soft applause spread like a small wave. Even the skeptical faces softened. Eli stood up beside me, voice steadier than I'd ever heard it. "I was part of the system," he said. "I filed the paperwork, approved the fees. I told myself it was just procedure. But procedure without conscience becomes tyranny. I should have spoken sooner." The room went still. His honesty landed heavier than any accusation could. Mrs. Parker nodded. "Thank you, Mr. Thompson." Reef clapped once, slow and firm. "That's accountability," he said from the back. The floor opened for nominations. A few names floated, neighbors I barely knew, but then Mrs. Parker looked toward me. "Mr. Rourke," she said, "would you consider serving as interim chair?" I froze. Sarah's hand brushed mine under the table. "Say yes," she whispered. "I'm not a politician," I said aloud. "You're not," Mrs. Parker replied, "but you are fair. And after what we've seen, that's enough." Eli grinned. "You said you weren't built for politics. Turns out that's why you should do it." The room chuckled softly. I looked around, faces I'd once considered enemies, now expectant, hopeful. Maybe this was how communities healed, one reluctant step at a time. "I'll serve temporarily," I said finally, "just until we get new bylaws in place." Applause broke out, scattered but sincere. Reef smirked. "Guess I'll be calling you Mr. President now." "Don't push it," I said, but I couldn't stop smiling. The meeting continued, calmer now. Motions passed, committees formed, transparency became the new buzzword. When it ended, people lingered instead of fleeing. Conversations replaced gossip. As we walked out, Mrs. Parker caught my arm. "We're going to repaint the clubhouse next week," she said. "Would you pick the color?" I laughed. "Just not beige." Outside, dusk was settling, amber light stretching long across the lawns. Sarah slipped her hand into mine. You realize what just happened, right? I got drafted, I said. You got trusted. Eli joined us, carrying the meeting notes. You think Patricia will see the article? She'll read it from a holding cell, Reef said behind him. And for the record, that speech of yours? Pretty good for a guy who hates microphones. I'll take that, I said. We reached the flagpole at the center green. It caught the last breeze of the day, flapping clean against a gold sky. Eli looked up at it. Think we can keep it like this? For a while, I said. Long enough to matter? He nodded, expression soft. Long enough sounds good. The crowd dispersed, laughter and low voices fading into the distance. For the first time, Oak Ridge Estates felt like a neighborhood again, imperfect, patched, but breathing on its own. And as we turned toward home, I knew the final battle wasn't about rules or power. It was about remembering that decency could still win. Even here, behind the picket fences. The morning after the new board meeting, Oak Ridge Estates sounded different. The air had that soft hum only silence can make after too many months of tension. Lawns looked the same, mailboxes still lined up in neat rows. But something intangible had shifted, like the place had finally exhaled. I brewed coffee before sunrise, same ritual as always. But for the first time, I didn't check the blinds for Patricia's golf cart. There was no patrol, no clipboard waiting to pounce on life. Only light filtering through clean windows and the low crackle of the coffee maker. Sarah joined me in the kitchen, barefoot, her robe trailing the floor. She looked stronger, color in her cheeks again, laughter trying to sneak back into her voice. You didn't sleep much, she said. Wasn't tired, I said. Too quiet, she smiled. You're addicted to chaos. Maybe, but peace feels strange after you've fought for it. We stepped onto the porch. Dew shimmered along the ramp's surface, turning the cedar into something almost golden. I ran a hand along the rail, smooth, solid, scarred from the fight, but unbroken. That thing caused a revolution, Sarah said. It saved us, I answered. She nodded. You think Patricia will get time? Fraud's one thing, I said. Assault's another. The DA's got more than enough. She'll plead. Sarah exhaled. Then it's really over. Almost. Later that day, I met Eli at the community green. He was holding a clipboard of his own, but his looked different, filled with signatures. Petition, he said, handing it to me. Residents want new bylaws requiring public audits and recorded meetings. I flipped through the pages. Nearly every household had signed. People change fast, I said. They were waiting for permission, Eli said. Sometimes all it takes is one person to say no more. He tucked the clipboard under his arm. I never thanked you. You don't need to. I do, he said quietly. You risked everything for people who doubted you. For me. I looked at the flagpole nearby. That's what service is, Eli. Doesn't end with deployment. He smiled faintly. Guess we both enlisted again. Reef arrived just then, sunglasses on, grin easy. DA called, he said. Plea deal's official. 2 years suspended, restitution, permanent ban from HOA involvement statewide. Statewide? I asked. Apparently she made an impression, he said. Eli chuckled. Justice by paperwork. Reef handed me a folded envelope. Inspector Nunez wanted you to have this. Inside was a formal letter. A commendation for cooperation and evidentiary support in a successful audit investigation. Nothing fancy, just words on paper. But it hit harder than I expected. Reef slapped my shoulder. Looks good framed next to that ramp. Maybe next to the coffee maker, I said. Keeps me humble. The three of us stood there for a long while, watching families gather on the lawn. Kids chased each other between sprinklers. Neighbors talked without fear of fines. The place finally felt like a neighborhood, not a garrison. Sarah waved from our porch, sunlight catching her hair. For a moment, I let myself breathe. Full lungs, steady heart. No sirens, no accusations, no battles waiting behind the door. Just home. Eli cleared his throat. You know, they're holding elections next month. I groaned. Don't start. Reef laughed. You'd win in a landslide. I didn't fight to wear her shoes, I said. I fought so nobody else would have to. The flag rippled overhead, catching the late afternoon wind. I raised my hand in instinct. Old habits hard to kill. Then I lowered it, realizing I didn't need to salute anymore. It wasn't about rank, it was about right. Eli turned toward me. So, what now? Now, I said, we build something worth defending. As dusk fell, porch lights blinked on one by one, like the town's pulse returning. I watched the ramp glow under the amber bulbs, sturdy and unashamed, the scar that saved us all. I took Sarah's hand and whispered, "We made it." She squeezed back. "You didn't just win, Jake. You changed the rules." I looked into the dark street where peace finally belonged and felt a quiet satisfaction deeper than any victory I'd known. If you've ever been pushed past your limit, if you've had to fight for what's right when no one else would, remember this: decency wins when you don't back down. And if you want to see how far justice can go, stick around and subscribe.